Welcome, everyone, to episode 410 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Penteleresco. I write stuff in podcasts, too, and today, Trista Robinson joins the podcast. And Trista, she's cool. Very quieter than I expected, but incredibly sweet and curious, open-minded. Definitely someone I would enjoy hanging out with in person. I think she's an awesome human being, and she's seeing amazing success as an actress right now. And it was a thrill to get the opportunity to talk with her about the craft. We go into some really cool conversations there. So at the end of my week, it ended up being a little bit hellish too. Knowing that I had computer problems, I decided that I would delay Al Zero a week, just because, frankly, I needed to promote the book, and I wasn't getting the opportunity to do that. And I put the date in, and Amazon's, for whatever reason, didn't save it, and my pre-order got canceled. So I'm dealing with that right now, but I'm hoping to have an update by Tuesday. And as you know, right now, these podcasts are going to be every other day until I catch up from last week. So for now, let's just get to our conversation with Trista, shall we?
This episode of Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint supports creators by creators. Whether you are writing a book or creating a video game, Indie Imprint works with its clients to produce, edit, and present their projects to the world. For more information, check out their website at www.indieimprint.com.
So if you've listened to any of my podcasts, I always start with this question. If you have anything incriminating you'd like to say, make it good.
Oh.
I've stumped you twice now.
Yeah, I know. What have I gotten myself into?
Well, I warned you going into this. Listen to a couple episodes. But no. So how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I have been breaking into freelancing, and I've been going through the ups and downs required of it. So.
Oh well, as an actor, I know that pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you start, I mean, basically, I'm in what I call the filter process, which is okay, I have to figure out who's a good client and who's a bad client and who's serious and who's not serious. And actually, that's the majority of the work I find.
Wow.
Well, the tasks themselves are, I mean, they all, I can't speak for you because you acting is a different muscle set, although in very ways very similar to what I do in terms of storytelling, right? But I imagine when you go for a part, you audition for the part like everybody else. If you get the part, you rehearse it. But I mean, you probably have had your situations where you've gone to a production where you kind of wonder if they know what they're doing, and then you probably have gone in other productions where it's been this is how it should be. It's almost like Wizard of Oz. One's black and white, one's color.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But hopefully one day I'll get to where you're at. Like you got yourself a nice little premiere on Amazon right now. It seems to be doing quite well for you. Congrats.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Don't jinx me, but yeah, it's nice to be able to keep being creative. I definitely like to be able to keep doing that.
Well, I mean, I'm willing to bet your butt that you worked your ass off to get to that point. And honestly, I find in this life, there's no sense in, you should be happy for people's success. It's so hard. It's a struggle to do anything worthwhile in this world. That anyone that gets to do something they really, really want to do, you should do nothing but applaud them because they paid a huge price to get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I agree with that. And thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, you have a very sweet demeanor. You're quiet and kind of quiet, and I'm not saying I'm terrible. Just you're sweet and quiet, and you're a horror actress. So I had this one. I find this is a common theme, but I'm just curious. How did you find horror, or did horror find you?
Thank you. I guess it's a little bit of both. So when I was a kid, I grew up
it sounds like the world said, "Nah, this is who you are. Embrace it." And then you just one day embraced it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. And at this point, it's such a big part of my life, and so many of my friends and my whole community, really, they all love horror. So yeah, I feel really confident in loving horror.
That's awesome. So what'd you grow up watching?
All kinds of things. I think Child's Play was the first movie I ever really saw, actually, that I remember. And I also watched the Evil Dead trilogy a lot with my dad. I likened those to sort of cartoons. They were sort of my cartoons.
Okay.
So yeah, those were really influential.
I have a soft spot for Evil Dead. That is literally passion personified. Because you could tell the money wasn't there for some of the things they were going for, but you had a lot of heart and a lot of people that worked really hard, and they're fun movies. They are totally fun movies.
I agree. Very inspirational as someone who makes low-budget horror films.
Yeah. So what's your is your favorite like the supernatural kind of horror, or are you like more into like the thriller kind of stuff? Like what scares you, or does anything scare you anymore?
I do love supernatural horror. I have a film out called Echoes of Fear, which is supernatural horror, and that's with Brian and Lawrence Avenay Bradley. They're a married couple, and they're also the filmmakers. And I really enjoyed making that film, and I'm very proud of it. So, and I'm gearing up to work with them again soon, and they have a strong love of supernatural horror. The things that scare me mostly, I would say, a lot of times are real things. You know, as a grown up now, the things that scare me are different than when I was a kid. Of course, you know, like Parasites was very disturbing for me.
So Parasites. Yeah, I had a little bit of a phobia of them when I was younger. Leeches in particular were the ones that would get me, because I was always told that I'd be scared of those when we went swimming. And
oh yeah, I meant Parasite the film, but that's actually creepy as well. Leeches are horrifying.
yeah, they are. They're totally. Yeah, we're talking about like real life horror stuff there for a second. So, what scares you as an adult? Like if it's not too personal, what terrifies you?
I mean, the news scares me.
Well, me too.
Real life stuff, yeah, like Contagion is probably. I just watched Contagion recently, and that's probably the scariest movie I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, well, it has a more real. It definitely has a more horror is at its best. I feel when there is an element of it could happen in it. It doesn't really matter what kind of horror it is, right? What matters what I feel like horror is at its best is there's this moment with the audience and the people watching it. It's like, oh my God, this could actually happen someday, right? Now, like that's the I think part of the allure, because horror is about transformation in my view, like things turning into monsters, situations turning dark, situations just taking a turn somewhere into a strange and wonderful world. It can be a lot of fun because it scares you, but also I find if it's really good, it makes you think that hey, it can happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. And obviously, when you're a little kid watching your first movie, what you think, your suspension of disbelief is much different than when you're an adult watching a movie, and your fears evolve that way. Yeah, so definitely for me, at this point in my life, things that could actually happen are the scariest for me. But a good jump scare can still get me, you know, and still keep me thrilled.
Oh, sometimes scares like some scares are awesome. Like there's like the natural scares. Like I love roller coasters, and I just love that adrenaline rush you get when you're going, especially like the old creaky wooden ones. Just like they're such a cool little rush, right? I lose my voice if I do it. I'm one of those guys like, hey man, this is so awesome. Let's just do it again, and until I had no voice left. And but that like I enjoyed those kind of thrills. a lot. Like that's my fear junkie adrenaline when it's there. But I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of scares in the genre. Whether it's like so the transformational ones. Sometimes it's just good fun. Like Jason, like towards the or I should say Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger towards the end of his run, he was a bit more of a gag, but it was a gag the audience was in on. So it was, I mean, it was just fun stuff, right? And if you look at metal, there's stuff like Alice Cooper as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I go on a lot of roller coasters as well. And I do think that those are the scariest ones, the older ones. And it's funny because they don't really have the loop. But they just feel like you could go off the rails at any second.
Well, there's that, but they're faster actually than the automatic ones, like the ones with the loops. They're actually a little faster, so there's a little bit more of a free-falling feeling when you're on the wooden coasters.
And just the momentum, just going up slowly is the scariest part.
Yeah, it's like you're about ready to go. It's like it's the anticipation. It's like, oh well, what happens when we get to the other side? We're just gonna fall. And then what happens?
Yeah, I think it's great to equate that to horror, actually.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. Well, like horror, you're right. Horror hasn't had the respect it's deserved in the last 30 years. And it's funny because, I mean, if you go way older, like you have the Alfred Hitchcock horror movies, you have some of the all-time classic movies are horror, right? I was just reading the other day about John Carpenter's The Thing. That's a creepy movie. And it's awesome.
Oh, yeah, and the effects are amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's something for everybody. So, what's your take on zombie horror? Yay or nay?
Oh, I like zombie horror. I know for a while there were a lot of zombies. Similar to then there were a lot of vampires. But I really like zombies. I really like Romero. I like when the zombies were real characters, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, all that cool practical effects, of course.
Yeah.
But I think there's also some effective zombie comedies.
Yes.
Just comedies. Yeah. Yeah, because they're sort of irreverent and well done. I can think of a handful off the top of my head. So I really like zombies. What about you?
I'm 50-50. Like, speaking of the comedy zombies, like Zombieland, like that, just you know what you're in for when you see the movie start. It's like, okay, this is a horror movie, but really it's a comedy in a horror setting. And my favorite scene is still Bill Murray. I think
that's mine too.
yeah, that is hilarious. I mean, it's like, wow, like how did you get that to work? But you did. It worked out perfectly. And strange world, like it's an absolutely strange world, but it's a really, really fun movie. I like it when, like, there's this one zombie movie I saw where instead of them biting you, they infected you by muttering something to you. And I like it when it's clever. Like, I like it when, like, if it's not, I mean, Walking Dead's great, but I don't want to see another Walking Dead or anything that comes close to a Walking Dead. I would rather, if you're gonna do a zombie movie, you gotta come up with an original way for it to happen, or else it's not as fun, or it has a bit of a been there, done that feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite supernatural thing? Is it the dolls like Chucky, or is it something else?
I'm sort of interested in ghosts. I think probably supernatural wise. I think ghosts kind of freak me out, and I've been on a number of paranormal investigations in my personal life. So yeah, I definitely have an interest in ghosts.
So how did you get into that, if you don't mind my asking?
Well, I shot a film in Big Bear, and then that filmmaker just kept inviting me to go on paranormal investigations that he had set up through his company, and he was also teaming up with other paranormal investigators. So I just went on those, and they were fun. And then at the same time, I had another friend, her and her sister were traveling all over the country going to haunted places. So just by being invited to go with friends.
You have interesting friends, wow. So you got, pardon me. So you have any good like ghost stories? I mean, you've done a couple paranormal investigations. I'm sure something strange has happened in your neighborhood. No pun kind of intended.
Yeah, when I go on the investigations, it's important for me to try to be aware of, like, if people are trying to manipulate things because there's a temptation, and also try to make up my own mind. You know, sometimes people get caught up and emotional, and maybe they think they hear something, and I respect everyone's point of view, but I definitely want to make sure I'm gauging things for myself. So, but there definitely have been a handful of times. One time, for instance, we did an EVP session, and when we asked the questions, we didn't hear anything with our ear, but when we played it back, I definitely heard a voice. Now, some people were saying they heard it saying help, other things I couldn't exactly ascertain what was being said, but I heard some sort of response, and I thought that was enough to keep my interest. And then another time, we were asking sort of sensitive questions in a hotel that had been a brothel that had a number of crimes happen, and then I witnessed a bunch of light bulbs burst as we were asking sensitive questions. So, like, of course that could be some sort of coincidence, but I've never personally seen light bulbs burst. So things like that have led me to want to continue going.
So you're of an open mind, but you don't have a solid conclusion, basically.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. So my film Echoes of Fear, that was shot in my friends, the filmmakers' home, and they've actually had real life experiences in that home, and the film is sort of based on them. And when we shot the behind the scenes for the Blu-ray, they asked me if I had any ghost stories to contribute, and at first I said no, but then I actually remembered some, like, two stories from when I was a kid, and I'm not sure if they were what I think they were, because I was a kid. I'm not sure if it was an active imagination, but I was surprised to remember these events that I had forgotten, and then more enthused about going on the investigation.
Well, the thing is, like, you have like an equivalent of a supernatural experience when you're a young kid. Like, you're not like, when you go back to, it's like, is it possible I'm wrong? And you conclude at some point, yeah, it's possible I missaw it, but dang it, if that's not what I thought at the time, right? It was real to me, at least in that moment, and it definitely, like, leaves an impression on you, right? So, I mean, for all, I have a couple experiences like that, although not involving ghosts. I one time thought I saw a UFO above. I'm living in Windsor, Ontario right now, and they have a casino here. One time I look up in the sky and I could have swore I saw a saucer above it. I could have been hallucinating. I'm not gonna, like, say that it's 100%. This certainly happened. I still remember it. It made me go, whoa, maybe. And, you know, I can, you know, and I can, like, in my head, it's like, I accept the fact that, you know what, that's what I believe I saw that night. I could be wrong, but that's what I believe. Is it kind of like the same thing?
Yeah, actually, I have a similar story. I actually have a memory of seeing a UFO when I was a kid as well one time, and I do have a healthy skepticism of little Trista. I'm not sure, but I do have a memory.
Yeah, you never forget the impact of stuff like that, like those experiences that don't fit that little box of life we have. Like, you know what those are. It's like, wait, that's not supposed to happen. You know, whether, I don't know what religious inclination you tend to follow, if any at all. I mean, I've been knocking my butt that way too, and I'm like, you know, there's something out there. There are things out there that are bigger than we are. And I'm okay with that, because who am I, right? And that's kind of how that's kind of like how I justify it in my head. I don't know what your belief is on that, but that's kind of mine. Like, well, how do you see it? Like, is that kind of how you see it, or do you see it a different way?
Yeah,
I mean, we have more knowledge today than we've ever had before. But our older ancestors were, I think, wiser than we are. Because they didn't have a problem with being a part of a greater whole or trying to find all the answers that fit a specific box. I am of the belief, like, when I was younger, I feared being small. I was scared of being small. Now that I've gotten older / wiser, we'll leave that up to, you know, anybody over the age of 12 to decide that one. I realize that I'm smaller than I ever thought I was, and I'm getting smaller all the time, and I'm more and more okay with that as I get older. Does that fit?
Yeah, I think that's sort of wise to mention.
Yeah.
Really, you know, just like I think there's an expression. The only thing I really know is that I know nothing at all, and I can definitely align myself with that.
There's a certain wisdom to that. The older I get, the more people I meet, the more I see and experience in life, the less I know. I think that's the way it's supposed to be, though. You know, what about you? What do you think?
I hope so. I mean, I think that's the only way you learn things, and I really think there's some real significance and beauty in humility.
Oh, I think it's necessary to even just like in just general, because life is like, if you let your ego get bigger than what you actually are. I mean, you have to have that bit of an ego, because let's be honest here, it takes guts to go up there and say, hey, I can pretend to be somebody else and get paid for it. That takes a certain audacity, and in a healthy way, to get to that point. Just like me, I'm like, hey, I write books. I think people will buy my books. That's just my 2 cents, right? That's my audacity. And what I find is, for most of us, right, that bit of ego is good. It's when it gets to the point it's like, well, that ego now is dictating everything you do. That's when you lose opportunities. So a little humility, it's like, hey, I did this cool thing, but what's next? And what else can I do? What else can I accomplish? And what else do I want to do? Does that ring?
Yeah, I guess so. It's interesting. I guess it is audacious and bold to go after your dreams in that way. I think I'm so comfortable with being sort of, I think there's some correlation for me with feeling insignificant, and so being able to do whatever I want, you know? I feel like it allows me that, and I feel like being humble allows me to be empathetic, which allows me to be an actor. Like, I feel like those things correlate.
I actually agree with you. I'd actually go one step farther, because you're like, it also gives you a freedom too. It's insignificant. It doesn't really matter. So why don't you just go for it anyway? Because it seems like fun.
Right. Yeah.
Does that hit home there?
Yeah, that is, I think, how I feel.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I think that it has opened the door for the opportunities you have, and like I said, your movie's doing okay on Amazon right now, and honestly, I mean, you got a chance to go out in the open in a time like this, and honestly, kudos to you. You've worked, again, going back, you've worked very hard to get to that point, and again, that takes, I mean, if you might feel you're insignificant, but I will say this for sure, you're tenacious. You gotta admire that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I build people up. It's kind of what I do. I'm good at it, and what people tell me. So this is an interesting time, because I assume you're still working somewhat. But for a bit there, I mean, it must have been like during when this all started, it must have been like, well, what's going to happen now, kind of, right?
Yeah, for sure. I've had shoots postponed, of course, until it's safer to work.
I don't doubt that you will get work because you are very good at what you do. So I'm gonna have a couple more questions, and then I think we can call ourselves a hunky-dory interview here. So you've been doing like primarily your horror. Like, would you do like? Obviously, if the opportunity and money was right, I'm sure you'd say yes. But is there anything you're not comfortable doing up there that you'd like to try?
Anything I'm not comfortable doing that I'd like to try?
In terms of acting, like in terms of your range, expanding your range, or just I've never been that role. I don't know how I fit in that role, how to make it mine, but it'd be a challenge.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been very fortunate to play a great range of characters, but I've always, I'm such a curious person that I do think it'd be interesting to play a man, just because I've never played a man, and I don't have a desire to be a man in real life, but I am fascinated just because it's so different from me. I do think it'd be interesting to play a guy.
That's interesting. So that actually might be possible with like a play, like with play is like theater stuff. I have never seen. Yeah, man, that would be interesting. Huh. And there are some possibilities too that could happen today that would make that work too. We live in an interesting time. What can I say? So if you get that, so that would be something you'd want to do. Is there anything else is there anything else, or is that the big one? Where it's like I'd like to try that.
Yeah, that's always been sort of very interesting to me. But I'd honestly just like to play completely different roles, and I've been really fortunate to be able to do that. I played a deaf woman, I played a serial killer, I recently played a cowgirl in the 1800s. I played a woman with PTSD. I'm gearing up for some things I can't talk about, but I would just like to be able to. The thing about being typecast is like the operative word is cast, right? And people just want to work, so it's not a bad thing necessarily to be typecast. But for me, it's been extra special to be able to be a chameleon, and that's what I'd like to keep doing.
Yeah, well, no, it sounds like you're having fun at the very least. So, and that's really what this is all about at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, let's see here. I got one more. This is going to be an evil question. I'm going to warn you. This is absolutely evil.
Oh no.
Are you ready?
I guess so.
Oh, you guess so? Okay. What's your favorite role you played to date?
Oh, that is an evil question.
It isn't. I told you. I warned you.
Wow. Alright. Well, I think I'm going to say my first real lead in a feature. I'm going to go with that because it was special because it was my first. And it was my first horror film, so I got to come out of the horror closet, and I played a deaf woman in a movie called The Human Race, and I got to learn sign language and befriend the deaf community. Like, I learned a lot about a whole community of people that I didn't know very much about, and I made some deaf friends, and I'm very proud of that character and that project, and I'm very grateful that I was able to have a lead role in my first horror film.
That's awesome. So, okay, so I'm going to dovetail slightly here. So obviously, being a lead in a movie is a goal for every actor or actress. But how much work did you have to put into that? Like,
I put a good amount of work. What was unfortunate for the project, but fortunate for me, is that they kept having to halt shooting just due to financial strain. So I wound up having a lot more time to work on it than I had originally anticipated. So I had two coaches, but I went out to deaf church every Sunday, just to observe
So do you know any nasty swear words?
Yeah, I used some in the movie. You'll have to watch the movie.
Okay. Nicely done. See, I've learned that. See, I can speak 2 languages well. 1 language is not so well, right? And I can swear in like 7 of them. So because honest to God, like if you really want to break barriers down really quick, the easiest way to do it is go to somebody. Hey, listen, can you teach me your really bad words? And they'll teach it to you. It's hilarious. Because suddenly, what I've done, see, what you do in that moment, right, is you make them smile, and there's a little bit like a tinkle in their eye, because now I'm letting them play, right? I'm giving them that, like, permission, like, listen, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun with this. Tell me a really dirty thing I'm not supposed to say that everybody says. Oh.
Yeah, that's a great way to bond with someone.
Absolutely. No, it's fantastic, right? And you learn too, because now what happens is then what happens with that person, you start to develop what I call a broken language barrier, right? They speak a little bit in their language, you speak a little bit in yours, and you kind of understand each other, and you can like make a great friend that way, and it's phenomenal, right? But I find with people, the real secret is you give them permission to play, and you can get and you will have a friend for life if you play your cards right. And
well, that's what I do for a living, so I agree with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, I will say, like I said, I did not. You are quiet, but you're quieter than I expected. Not gonna lie, but you seem like very sweet. You're very open-minded, and you seem like you're always curious and going for something. So I can admire that. So it was a pleasure to meet you.
Oh well, you're so kind. Thank you so much. I'm flattered that you took an interest in my work, and I'm grateful for your time and your sweetness. Thank you.
I just so happened that I saw Tim Chismar praise you, and I've interviewed, and I know Tim, and it's like, and I looked at you at that point, it's like, wow, she's kicking ass. So let's see if she'll come on the podcast. So.
Oh, thank you. He is very sweet and supportive too. I feel very grateful.
Yeah, but it sounds to me like I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
Sorry, what did you say?
I think we have an interview. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I feel very happy with it. Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't we end it like this officially? Tell people about your current movie. Is anything coming up with you in August?
All over the world, which is great. It'll be available in the UK July 20th on digital, and then on Blu-ray on August 3rd. And we're still coming out in more territories. And then I have Purgatory Road, which is also on Tubi and Amazon Prime, and that's also popping up in other countries very soon as well. And then, yeah, in August I'll go back to shooting a film that I've shot with an amazing title. It's called Killer Babes and the Frightening Film Fiasco. And that is with a bunch of notable screen queens, horror icons who I'm excited to work with. And then I also have a top secret project with Michael Epstein and Sophia Cacciola, who are huge in the horror community, and I really admire them as well.
All right, so you got all those things. How can people find you if they want to find you?
My name is Trista Robinson, and I post updates on my work on Facebook and on Twitter as well.
So, is there like an address on Twitter?
Yeah, I think you just search Trista Robinson.
That's it? You're the only one? Well.
I don't know. I might be the only actor, because I registered with SAG, and there was an issue. You know, sometimes you have to change your name if someone else has your name.
Let me help you tell your story. I offer a variety of audio services. I will narrate, I will produce, I will edit, and I will master your file so that it will be ready for Audible and Spotify. And if you don't want me to narrate your story, whether you want to do it or get someone else, I will help you find the right person for the job. All in all, I just want to help you tell your story. Let me help you. For information on my rates and services, please click the link below in the podcast description, jpantelresco.wordpress.com for more details. And that was my conversation with Trista Robinson, ladies and gentlemen. I really had fun with her. She was very cool, very sweet, quieter than expected, like I told her, but awesome talent. I'm happy for your success. There's an Echosphere is available now on Amazon. Check a look at her movie. It's awesome. It was a pleasure to have you, Trista. Feel free to come back anytime. All right. So what do you guys think? The audiobook commercial now it's in the back. It's going to be the bumper of every episode going forward. As is, I'm just getting started with this. I already have my first client. I'm excited about that. And as of this morning, the Alice Zero thing has been resolved. I'm not going to have the link here, but I'm going to say it here because I'm actually doing a whole bunch of episodes at once. Click on the link, pre-order it. When it's out, it'll be available literally in 2 weeks. I'm just getting it out. It's done. I'm happy with it. I can just move forward and release the book and go on to what's next. And I'm excited for what's next. So, without further ado, thank you guys for listening for this episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so in a number of different ways. Subscribe to the podcast. I'm on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer. You name it, I'm there. Just find me, hit the subscribe button, listen to it, download it, review it, let people know about it, because that helps me more than anything else. Number one. Number two, my books. Watch, Storm, and Answer, Wandering God from MiraClePublishing.com. The Cloud Diver currently on Amazon, going wide very soon. As far as Alice Zero goes, that will be available pre-order. If not on this episode, link the next. So check a look at my books. I have merchandise available as well. I have a newsletter you can sign and subscribe to. I give away all kinds of free stuff there too. All in all, guys, stay inspired. Keep doing your thing. And I will see you guys next time.
Josh.